gorgeous girls. I haven't been around here for quite a long time, for over 2 months actually, and I can imagine you know why. It's because I've had a baby girl and her name is Astrid and she's absolutely beautiful. I haven't had really much time and I haven't really, you know, felt like it too much being a new mum recording, but I have been back on the blog already for a month, so you can check out my Instagram and blog if you have missed me and you want to see what's going on. So today I thought I'd talk to you about my labour and birth experience, just to tell you guys what it was like for me. And I watched a lot of these videos when I was pregnant and I thought it was quite useful, although I do have to say that a lot of them were quite negative, and I wanted to put out there a labour and, you know, birth video which was actually really positive, because I have to say that it was amazing and it wasn't as bad as I expected whatsoever. So let's start from the very beginning. I still have a third trimester video to record and talk to you about, because my plan was to record it, but then she was born a little earlier than expected, so I never got around to doing it. But I will probably record it because a lot of, you know, different things happen in the third trimester. That's when you most feel pregnant. You know, you're big and there are a lot of symptoms and stuff like that. So I wanted to talk to you about that. But anyway, I was on week 38, and that was going to be the first week where I would go into hospital and they would monitorize me, which would mean that they strap these, they put these straps around your belly, and one of them is to monitor the heartbeat of the baby and the other one is to monitor the contraction. So that was very exciting, because in theory they can sort of tell you if things are about to happen or not, or what is going on. So I went in on the Friday, and we were the last ones there, so my husband could go through too, and they had me there for about half an hour, and they saw that I had, you know, very small contractions. I had been having them the whole of my pregnancy. They're Braxton Hicks contractions, but they're not real, like, you know, labour contractions. So my belly would go hard, you could see that on the monitor, and that was pretty much it. But as I was having those contractions, they also checked me and they saw that everything was like completely, you know, completely closed, nothing happening. So they told me that, you know, she probably wouldn't be born for at least another 15 days, so not to worry. But they gave me an appointment for the following Friday to check again, because that's what you do. So that weekend, obviously there was no way I could imagine that anything was going to happen whatsoever. I didn't have any symptoms or anything anyway. And that weekend my husband was working. He also had some events. He had a rally, so he hadn't, you know, he wasn't sleeping very much and all that. And I remember that on Saturday night he worked at night, and he came in at 6 in the morning, and I remember that I had like slight period pains, and I hadn't had that before, you know, since the first trimester. So I thought that was a bit strange. And I remember saying to him when he came in from work and he hadn't slept and the whole business, said to him, wow, imagine she was, you know, she was born tomorrow. And he was like, well, if she's born tomorrow, sort of thing. But neither of us expected that to happen. So he went to bed at around 7 o'clock, and at 8 I woke up, you know, because I needed to go to the loo, because that's what happens when you're pregnant, you need the loo 1,000 times. And I went to the loo, and when I stood up, I felt like a gush again. And I sort of dried myself, I got up again, and it happened again. And I remember standing in the middle of the bathroom, literally dripping, and thinking, oh my God. And it took like a split second to really absorb it and think, oh my God, my water has broken. And trust me, there was like no doubt about it. There was no stopping that. That was just like, you know. So I went with a towel to the bedroom and woke my husband, who had been in bed for 1 hour, and said that my water had broken, you know, that we had to go to hospital. And he was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And in the courses that we did with the midwives, we were told that if that happened, we had about 2 hours to get into hospital. So I knew it wasn't a question of rushing there like they show in the films. There was no need to run, you know, that you could have breakfast and take a shower and everything, and to go calmly. In fact, this was exactly the situation that I didn't want happening, because if your water breaks but you haven't gone into labour, so you have no contractions, you have to wait in hospital for things to get going, and that's like the worst situation, especially if you don't want an epidural or any pain relief. So I was really annoyed about that, because the best, if you don't want pain relief and all that, is to stay at home as long as possible, putting up with the contractions until they are not so far apart, and then you go into hospital. But I couldn't really do anything about it. I had to go in. So I very calmly sat down to have breakfast, and I had a shower, although there was not much use in that, because once the tap was open, that was it. There was no stopping it. So yeah, and all the time my husband was running around like a headless chicken, literally just flapping about. And it was very funny because I hadn't finished preparing my hospital bag, because I wanted to record a video for the YouTube channel. So I hadn't actually gone around doing it. So I was sitting in the kitchen having breakfast, and I was reading through the things in the list, and he was checking that they were in the bag, and if not, he was putting them in. And I remember it was really weird, because I wrote a list for him of things that he should take to entertain himself and feed himself and stuff like that. And I remember he couldn't find his earphones for his iPad, and he was going crazy looking for an iPhone box that he didn't know where it was. And it was just ridiculous, because it was like, this is just not the moment to be looking all over the house for an iPhone box. But anyway, that was quite funny. So anyway, 2 hours after, I headed into hospital. That was around 10-ish, 10:30, something like that. Hello, oh my God. It's Sunday morning, Susa hasn't slept, and I think my water has broken. Well, I'm pretty sure actually. So we're on our way to the hospital, oh my God. You go into A&E and you say, I think my water has broken. So someone takes you over to labour and delivery. And there they made my husband wait in a waiting room. That's standard procedure. And they put me in another little room. I sat in one of these, sort of like obstetrics chairs, and they checked whether in fact my water had broken. As soon as they sort of looked, they said, oh yeah, there's no doubt about it. You've definitely, broken waters. And they checked several things, my temperature, my blood pressure. And I remember them saying, oh, are you nervous because your blood pressure is a little high? And I was like, well, I mean, I'm going to give birth. Of course I'm a bit nervous. I mean, obviously I didn't look nervous, but I obviously was nervous / excited. So anyway, after that, my husband was called in, and we went to another room where they put the straps around me to check contractions and the heart rate and stuff like that. So I was there for about 20 minutes, half an hour, and that's when we called my parents and my parents-in-law. So they all went completely crazy and started flapping about, and got in their cars to come and visit me as soon as possible. And at that moment, a gynecologist came in, and she said, well, we're going to get this labour going, and I'm going to administer oxytocin. But at that moment she checked and she saw that basically I was having small contractions, although basically they were the same ones that I had been having all last trimester. Basically these Braxton Hicks, or what seemed like Braxton Hicks to me, the whole like stomach area going hard but not painful. So she said, well, just in case, we're going to see what happens in the next 24 hours, because I don't really want to give you oxytocin and then it like goes out of the roof, and and you have mildly strong contractions. That would be a bit too much. So that was really annoying in a way, because that just meant I had to wait for 24 hours, walk a lot in the hospital and stuff like that, and see if the labour would get going, if I would start having contractions and all that. So I was taken to a room upstairs in obstetrics where all the other women had their babies already, which is a bit weird, and you don't, you're still very much pregnant. And it was a massive bedroom with an individual bed and a sofa for my husband, and a big bathroom with a little bathtub for the baby and everything. This is our super room. We've got this adjustable chair. Susa's going to sleep. We've got a big sofa. My own little wardrobe. My bed, little crib, Telly. So just gonna have a sleep.
Aquí no traes nada porque la habitación vamos a tener.
And this is my bathroom. It's a very big bathroom. Toilet. Baby bath. Shower. Maternity pants. And me! Yippee! Keely! And the rest of the day, basically the whole of my family started visiting me, which was a little bit strange because there was nothing to see whatsoever, really nothing to see. It was just me, pregnant, walking and dancing around, basically, trying and, you know, hoping, fingers crossed, that I would, you know, get things going. And things were not going. So that was quite funny. So they had me in slippers and just a hospital gown, so that's always a bit weird when people are visiting you. And I just walked around. Every time I walked out of the room I had to tell a nurse that I was going somewhere, which was a little bit annoying. Waiting for the baby. Susa looking zombie. Ingrid looking crazy. And I was like dancing around the room and walking down the corridors and, you know, just basically trying to keep active and make sure that things would get going. But of course, I hadn't really slept much. My husband hadn't slept at all. He had a little nap on the sofa, seeing that things were not starting, and not much else. Taking another walk down the hallways with Mum. Now it's, what time is it? Almost 12 at night.
5 to 12.
There's no one, only me. So at around 8 in the afternoon, because nothing had happened, they administered antibiotics. So that meant they placed a catheter in my arm and they gave me intravenous antibiotics, because as the water has broken, your amniotic sac is broken, and bacteria could go up into the baby, so that's why it's very important to have antibiotics. So that was that. And a funny anecdote was that at one point in the afternoon I had asked for one of these like yoga Pilates ball, and I was bouncing on the ball looking like an idiot basically, and we were on the ground floor and it had massive bay window, and I don't know, suddenly I sort of looked up, and in the building opposite, which also belonged to the hospital, on the 3rd floor, suddenly I see like a young boy, and he was like suddenly waving at me, and I looked a bit closer and I thought, oh my god, that's one of my students. And that same week he had come into class like with a dislocated shoulder, and he had mentioned that he maybe needed to operate on it. So I sort of gesticulated, I said, is it your shoulder? And he was like, no. And he said, is it your belly? Sort of thing. And I was like, yeah. So that was pretty much it. But a little while later, suddenly he appeared in my bedroom to come and visit me, and it was really funny because apparently he was able to find out, like counting the windows and all that, what room I might be in, and the nurses, he asked the nurses where I was, and they didn't want to let him through because he wasn't family and all that, but he sort of begged him, please, she's my English teacher and I want to see her, she's pregnant, blah blah, and all that, and I think the nurses were so sorry that they let him through. So that was really, really cute. So he came to visit me, and it's so sweet, to have a visit like that from your students, really cute. So by the evening I was just like super annoyed because that was exactly what I did not want. I did not want to be induced. It was not so natural, and the oxytocin just made things much more painful, and I wanted a natural delivery and in a birthing pool without any epidural or any medication of any sort, and it was just not going to be like that, so I was quite annoyed. But anyway, well, almost 1 o'clock, feeling quite tired now. Nothing has happened yet, so I'm going to try and sleep, and in the morning, if nothing has happened, I'll be induced. All through the night, not much happened. I had slight period pains type thing, but basically not much else. And in the morning I was waking up very early. I was told I had to shower and change my my hospital gown because at 9 o'clock I would be taken to labour and delivery to start the induction. And all through the night I was given antibiotics more times. They kept checking my temperature in case obviously I got an infection, and that was pretty much it. The thing was, I was taken to labour and delivery before breakfast came round, so I told the midwives that I hadn't had anything for breakfast, so they were really, really nice, and they brought me some breakfast. It took a little time because they don't usually take breakfast into labour and delivery, but they were really nice about it. And they gave me an orange juice and what else? Orange juice, hot chocolate, and I think it was toast with jam or something like that. So basically they were waiting for me to finish my breakfast, and then they would start with the induction. So I was put in one of the rooms with a birthing pool, which I was actually quite happy about, because I thought, oh, I can use the birthing pool, which is exactly what I wanted. And all this I had written down in a booklet, because you're supposed to fill in, I will talk about this in my 3rd trimester video, you fill in your labour plan, right? So this is what you would like how you would like things to happen, although obviously it's a little uncontrollable, isn't it? So I had dimmed lights, you know, everything was very natural, and obviously they said to me, look, as we're giving you artificial oxytocin, it's going to be much more painful and a much longer delivery than a normal one, so we know that you don't want to have an epidural, but remember that at any given point you can change your mind, and we have everything ready, and that's it.
Good morning. I'm here in Monitores. Things have to start because they haven't started, so wish me luck.
So that was that. So they connected me, you know, to fluids and also a little oxytocin bag, and the way it would work is that every 20 minutes they would double the amount, right, until they got the contractions as strong and at the frequency that they wished. And
here we are, I'm being induced, getting more and more oxytocin all the time, so I can't really move because I've got the monitors on and all that. Wish me luck.
The annoying thing was I needed to have the straps around my belly all the time, because they had to make sure that the contractions were as they wished, and also make sure that the baby was not under any stress. So basically that was it, in the sense that I couldn't walk around, I couldn't get into different positions, I was basically sort of strapped and in bed.
The contractions are increasing in power. The ones on the right and on the left is the heartbeat.
Obviously they said, don't worry, we'll sort of help you, you know, maybe sit on a ball or move around a little bit, but I had all these cables around me, and on top of that, every time I moved a little, everything would sort of like come apart, and then it wouldn't read. So the midwife had to come back in and set everything again, so it was really annoying. So anyway, they started with the contractions, and things were actually fine. I had been to yoga lessons and also the midwife course, and they taught us how to breathe through them. And that's what I would like to tell everybody, that, you know, remember that the contractions only last for a maximum of about a minute, and then you get some break. Obviously, as they get more intense, you get less time in between contractions to sort of like recover. But take into account that you just have to survive, breathe through that minute, and then that's it. The pain completely goes away. There's just no pain whatsoever in between contractions. So, you know, take that into account, because I think it made it a lot more easy for me to go through, right?
I'm on the ball. Things are progressing.
So anyway, for very much of the time I was WhatsApping with my sister-in-law, who's a nurse. I'd like to say thank you to her, because she really helped me through the delivery. I was also WhatsApping my blogger friends Adara and Raquel, who kept asking me things and all that. And definitely, obviously, I was WhatsApping with my best friend Maria, who may be watching this video, and thank you so much also, because, you know, you were all great support and you kept my mind off everything. And it was very funny, because the midwife, whenever she came in and saw me on the phone, she was like, oh, you know, the contraction's not strong enough yet if you're still on your phone. Well, this is quite obviously a different day. I wasn't able to finish recording after that last part that you saw, because Astrid started crying, so I'm going to carry on now. I look completely different, sorry about that. This is what happens when you have a 2-month-old baby. Anyway, as I was telling you, the midwife was obviously saying to me, well, it's not that bad if you can still write on WhatsApp. Obviously the contractions got worse after that. Maybe not just intensity, it's also they were longer. At the beginning they were about 30 seconds, then about 40, 45, and then they were up to a minute. And at the beginning you have a minute in between each contraction, more or less, and then they get closer also. So you don't have as much of a break. In any case, I was breathing through the contractions. My husband was an amazing help because he had been to the courses and he knew what to tell me and how to help me breathe so that I wouldn't lose my calm and I would keep concentrated and focused on the job. So basically when the contraction started, I would feel it. He would also tell me it was coming because he could see it on the monitor, and I would start breathing, you know, taking air slowly and letting it out slowly. If my husband saw that I was starting to breathe a bit faster, he would tell me to relax and to breathe slowly, which was incredibly helpful because sometimes at that moment you tend to forget and you're really in the zone. And the thing is that you have to breathe through it, and you have to take into account that they only last about a minute long, and anybody can last any pain for a minute, and after that you get a break. And in the break, you have no pain whatsoever. It's literally no pain. So it's something that if you mentalize yourself and you think it that way, you know, I think you can get through it. But anyhow, my husband had a little application. He was, you know, writing down how many contractions, how long they were, how far apart and stuff like that, which was very helpful. Although the midwives kept coming in, obviously, to check on me and also see that everything was okay. I was able to sit on one of the yoga balls, but it was very difficult because the point about sitting on one of those is that you can move around when you've got a contraction. But I couldn't really move much because every time I did, the silly monitor things kept coming off or moving slightly, and then they wouldn't read and all that. So the midwife would have to come back in, tell me to stop and put them back in their place. It really was a nightmare. And it actually got to the point where they actually asked me to lie down on the bed because they couldn't get the monitors to give a proper reading, and they were worried that maybe the heartbeat of the baby wasn't okay, or the contractions or whatever. So that was one of the worst times, because when you're lying in bed, that's really not the best way to go through pain. So, you know, that's a tip for you. Any other way, moving or standing or kneeling or on the yoga ball or in the bathtub if you're able to, that's obviously much better than just lying flat on your back. That's like the most painful way to be. But anyway, that was sort of like the worst time. By then I wasn't WhatsApping anymore, obviously, and it got to the point where the midwife decided to check to see how dilated I was. So she checked and she said, well, you know, the uterus isn't completely effaced yet, and you're still only dilated by 4 centimeters, and which was fine, you know, I wasn't expecting to be fully dilated or anything, but at that point my husband asked, well, you know, how much longer is it going to be until she's completely, you know, dilated? And she said, well, you know, inductions generally take much longer, so it could be about another 12 or 15 hours. And at that moment I was like, oh my god, you know, that psychologically, you know, breaks you slightly, because I was thinking another 12, 15 hours, and that was 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and I was thinking, oh my god, am I being crazy not getting an epidural? And you see, here in Spain we don't have any other means of pain relief, so it's either nothing or epidural. We don't have gas and air, we don't have anything else. But I decided to carry on, stay strong. You know, I still had time to ask for an epidural if I really needed it, but I just decided to carry on, you know, going through, because I had convinced myself I didn't want an epidural and all that. And maybe about half an hour to an hour later, I started to notice something a bit strange. I started to notice as if I needed to, like, go to the loo for number 2. Not nice to say that way. So I went to the toilet a couple of times, which meant disconnecting all the things and all that. And I just wasn't able to go. Anyway, I asked the midwife, and she said, no, that's probably the head of the baby is pressing your back, and maybe that makes you feel that way, but it's nothing else and all that. So I just said, okay, fine. At that point, the midwives changed their shift, so I got 2 new ones. And the new ones, when they came in and they saw that the monitors kept disconnecting and all that, they recommended putting a wireless monitor. And I thought, well, why didn't you put that before? But perhaps they were being used by someone else who was in labour. I don't really know. And they also recommended using the bathtub. Yay, the bathtub, which is what I wanted in the first place. I was like, oh my god, why didn't the other midwife offer me this? But anyway, so they started to get the bathtub ready and all that, and I kept feeling that very strong sensation, and even in the middle of the contractions, I was getting like this pushing feeling, really, really strong pushing feeling. And I don't know, that my gut instinct told me to ask the midwife, and I insisted, look, you know, I feel something strange, it feels different from before. Could you like check? And she said, yeah, I'll check, but you know, not long has passed since the last time we checked, you know, less than an hour, so, you know, you're only going to be about maybe 5 centimeters dilated at the most, and not even that probably, so I don't want you to get discouraged. And I was like, no, just check, because it feels really strange. So she checked down there, and she suddenly looked at me, like with her eyes popping out, and she said, oh my god, you're fully dilated. And I was like, what? She was saying, yes, you're completely dilated. And I was like, so what now? And she's like, well, if you feel the urge to push, then push. I was like, yes, I've been feeling the need to push for the past, I don't know how long. But anyway, so I was sitting on the yoga ball. Obviously the bath was out of the question, because at that point in Spain, you cannot give birth in the bathtub. You can in England, but not in Spain. So I was like, okay, on the yoga ball. But after a while, I started to think, well, I'm not a midwife, but you know, if I'm sitting on the ball, the head can't come out this way. And I sort of mentioned that to the midwife, and she said, well, yes, I know, but there's still plenty of time to go before, you know, she's actually going to come out, you know, still has to get into place and, you know, fix the head in the right place and all that. So, you know, you can carry on there on the yoga ball. But I don't know, I was a little bit obsessed about that. So I decided I wanted to change. So they offered me this like birthing chair. It's like a chair and you're kneeling, like sitting on it, but it gives you like the position of kneeling, if you know what I mean, which opens up all the area and makes it easier for the baby to come out. And that was amazing. I mean, on that chair I could push even stronger and all that. And at that moment the midwives were like staring, like okay, Ingrid, we need you to go somewhere else. We need you to change, because you know, you're advancing really quickly, and in this position we can't basically catch her if she comes out. And it's nothing to do with the birthing chair. It's because as I had all the cables and everything for the monitors, it was difficult for them. So I said, okay, fine, I'll change, I'll go wherever you want, I'll do whatever you say. And they're like, okay, do you want to try on all fours or on the bed? And I was like, well, I'm happy to try anything. So that meant that I was basically on my knees on the bed, and then they made the back of the bed go up like that, so I was like against the back of the bed. So I wasn't like a dog, I was sort of like, you know, against the bed on my knees. And that was also excellent for pushing, because, you know, gravity was helping everything go down. And they even helped me by tying like a cloth or something, so that I could actually pull and all that. My husband even offered, no, you can pull from me, and I was like, no, because I'm just going to break your arms off, or I'm going to not pull as strongly because I don't want to hurt you. So that's not a good idea. But anyway, at that point, obviously the pushing is a different kind of pain. When the contractions come, you get that feeling that you want to push, and you concentrate all your strength down there. You have to breathe through the push. And I'm not gonna lie, obviously it is painful, but it's definitely not as bad as I expected. And I could feel everything, so I could feel her going down, which was like very encouraging, if you know what I mean. And I was really in a good mood. I was laughing through the whole thing. The midwives, they couldn't believe it. They were laughing with me, and they were saying, oh my god, we should have been recording this, because this is just great to show, you know, in the midwife courses, because you're just so calm and so happy, and you're having so much fun doing this, and you haven't even got an epidural. But anyway, I remember laughing with them, because they were like, oh, we can see the head. And I was like, oh, how much can you see? And they're like, this much? I was like, what? Only that? And here I'm pushing like a maniac, I can only see this, and I couldn't stop laughing. And it was really funny. Even my husband was just laughing at me, because I would push, and I could feel it coming down. But then obviously when the contraction ends, you stop pushing, and she would go back up. I could feel her going back into my body. And I was like, no, all the pushing I've done and she's gone back up. And the midwives were laughing and they said, don't worry, it does reach that point where she will lock and she won't come back up. And it did eventually happen. I'm not gonna lie, that's painful because usually, as I said before, between contractions when you're resting, there's no pain at all. But at that point, when the head is locked, there's pain all the time because it's maximum engagement, like it's there. You know, ring of fire, what they're saying. It's there, but well, you know that after that, she's gonna come out soon. So I pushed a couple of times more. The midwives are like, no, take your time, do it slowly like that, there's less damage. But at that point I was like, I wanna see my baby now, now. So I pushed a couple of more times and she came out. I swear, I didn't even realize when she came out. It was like a swoop, and suddenly she was there. I was like, what's happening? And my husband said, she's out, she's out. And as I was like that, leaning forward on my knees, they passed it to me through the front, like that. And she had quite a short umbilical cord, so I had her quite low down, and I sort of sat back on my feet, and I just held her. And I think the first thing I said was, oh my God, what long fingers she's got. And then I said, hello. And I know I said that because my husband at that point was actually recording, amazingly enough. He didn't record any other bits of the birth, but he did record that moment. Trust me, I cannot show it. I don't think I'll be able to show it to Astrid even when she's older because I'm like naked, dirty, sweaty. It's very visual, so no way. And it was funny because my husband was in front with me, and at one point he was at the back, and I was like, no, wait, up here with me, because I didn't want him to see all that and be traumatized for life. Although, you know, I don't think he would have been because he's not squeamish at all, but still I was like, no, I need the magic to stay alive, you know, come up here with me and keep me going, but here at my head. And then the midwives, you know, she was out, I was just staring at her, she was so beautiful. She cried a little bit, but not too much. And she was just standing there, you know, all dirty and all that. They put a little hat on her, and the midwives helped me turn over, which was quite a feat with the umbilical cord still attached. And they just placed it on me, and they let the umbilical cord stay for a little while. And after that, my husband cut it, which was lovely too. And then they just placed it on me, and she was just there, quiet, just staring at me with her blue eyes. She had quite a lot of very dark hair, which most of it has fallen now. And she was just there, you know, looking at me, and she obviously wanted to suckle, and she started suckling her fingers. And I was telling the midwives, oh, what do I do? She wants to suckle. And they were like, wait a second, you know, first we have to check you out, and you have to deliver the placenta. So I didn't notice that at all. Had no idea. And then after that they checked, and they wanted to see if I needed any sutures. I barely had any damage. I think they gave me 2 stitches perhaps, but only superficially, and more for the sake of just in case than anything else. And I have to say that in a way was more bothersome than giving birth itself, because at that point, you know, I don't want anyone down there anymore. You know, I've had my baby, I've done my work, that's it. And they're prodding and cleaning and all that, and stitching, and I was like, oh. But anyway, in the end, all that passed, and that was that. So we stayed down in labour and delivery, I think it was for about an hour in total, and the midwives taught me how to breastfeed her lying down, because the first couple of days, or even week in my case, it's better to breastfeed lying down rather than sitting, because, you know, all the area down there is really swollen. So that's how they taught me to breastfeed her, and you know, she started breastfeeding and all that, and that was great. And usually the mother has a bath there in labour and delivery, but it was almost 4 o'clock. But it was almost 5 o'clock, and I forgot to say, Astrid was born at 4:15. Oh, and I forgot to say, Astrid was born at 4:15, and my mother had to go and teach at 5, so I wanted to go upstairs before, you know, before she would leave, so that she would see the baby. Oh, and I forgot to say, we didn't have a name until then. We had a list, and our two favourites began with the letter A. And you know, when I was delivering her, you know, the midwives were like saying, God, you're so strong, you know, you're like a Viking with your Viking name Ingrid and this and that and the other, and the baby is so strong, you know, her heartbeat never went down, she never suffered, she was, you know, really, really strong. When she was born, she was really wide awake, and, you know, and all that. So my husband and I looked at each other and we said, well, we'll have to give her the Viking name so she can be a little Viking like I am. So that's why we named her Astrid. And well, as I was saying, before 5 I was taken up to my room, and it was beautiful when I got there. You know, they're full of flowers and cards and a balloon that my mum bought me and all that. And my mum was there, and my parents-in-law, and it was lovely. They got to see the baby and everybody was so happy. I think I was in a bit of a shock with the whole thing. Not in pain or anything anymore, actually. And the best about not having an epidural is that I could, you know, walk already. Obviously they recommended me going with someone, especially the first few times, just in case I fainted or whatever. So the first day I always went with my husband to the toilet, just in case I fainted or whatever. And I'm not gonna lie, that day in the afternoon, my legs were a little shaky because of all of the effort of pushing and being on my knees for so long. But other than that, I was perfectly fine, really no pain, not much pain at all, basically. I remember they gave me anti-inflammatories and I didn't take them. And then they told me off because they're like, okay, you don't feel pain, you don't need a pain relief, but you need something for the swelling. So that's why I had to take them and all that. And I want to make a video about breastfeeding because I think it would be interesting, and I wasn't sure if I could breastfeed or not. It isn't as easy as it may seem, or at least not always, and all sorts of things happen to me, so it would be nice for me to give you my opinion and my experiences. So I will be making another video on that if you like. And that was it. That was my baby's birth. Beautiful, beautiful Astrid. It was a lovely experience. I do have to say that, you know, I had a great delivery. It wasn't very long at all. Started at 10 and finished at 4:15, so I don't think that was bad at all. And I just wanted to give my opinion because, you know, I watch a lot of these videos and some of them are just like gruesome, and people are really make you feel a little bit worried. And obviously each experience is different, and I just wanted to leave my positive experience and to say that you can do it without an epidural. It doesn't mean you're less of a mother if you do get an epidural, but, you know, I just wanted to say that you can do it, or at least with my birth it was possible. So I hope it was interesting for you, this video. Please press thumbs up and comment and ask me any questions, and if I can answer, I definitely will. Thank you so much for being there and for waiting all this time, all these months, and hopefully I will try to get into some sort of schedule, making videos and all that. But of course, you know, Astrid is so adorable and takes up so much of my time that it's not as easy as it used to be. But anyway, thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!